Ciao a tutti, benvenuti a un caffè con Francy e Traci e oggi è qui con noi quello che io chiamo il mio prof, ovvero Carl Binder. Ciao a tutti, ciao Traci e ciao Carl.
Good morning everyone. Welcome to another Coffee with Traci and Francesca. Today we're joined by Francesca's professor, Carl Binder.
And I have the usual question. Can the web be a help ABA to share ABA with everyone in the world? What do you think, my prof? Help me, because I have only 1,000 followers and I would like to have 1 million followers. Why? What is my problem?
Well, I don't know what your problem is as far as growing your YouTube channel is concerned, although I know there's a lot of experts in that. But I think it's been interesting to watch with COVID-19 what people have been doing with the web. And for example, we have people who are doing precision teaching with kids with maybe learning disabilities, but kids who do not have severe, issues. And it's quite effective. Some of our colleagues have been really figuring out ways to do that quite effectively. We have one of my colleagues, Danielle Costa, for example, who has a learning center in Oregon. When COVID-19 hit, they retooled their whole program to be able to work with parents and kids online. And she now has students that are long distances away from her that she can serve. Now, those are kids that do not have behavior problems or they communicate well and so forth. So that's one thing. And then I'm not so much in touch with a lot of our colleagues who are doing ABA with children and families who have children on the spectrum. Traci may know more about that than I do, but it's my impression that, if you think as a behaviorist, if you think about selectionism, and you say when extinction happens, you get more variation in behavior, what we're seeing now is people trying a lot of different things. They're trying many different things, and some of them aren't working so well, but a lot of them are getting selected. And so I think many of our colleagues are discovering ways to do this more effectively, to actually teach and deliver services online. And I've noticed, I haven't watched that many of them, but there've been a lot of webinars, people trying to share that. I have a feeling that in the next 6 months to a year, it would be quite interesting to have some conversations globally about what worked and what didn't, because I suspect there'll be some important discoveries. So that's one idea. The other thing is that, in my own business, I don't do ABA therapy. I work with organizations on performance improvement. But when COVID-19 happened, we realized that literally everything we do, all of our programs and services can be delivered like this with Zoom. And so we kind of we had done that for different reasons, but we sort of discovered that, wow, we can do that now. We can even do major consulting projects by interviewing people and so forth. And so we're just learning also. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here to learn things and discover how to do this better. So I'm not sure what else to say.
You open as usually my mind, and I want to ask you to think something new before Traci, because it's my prof, and I have one more question. No, one more idea. For example, the coffee with Traci, because as a teacher, I try many things online. I try to play with Bice, and I have much more followers than when I talk about ABA, because many people look at me and Bice play, but I stop. I do many things not live, but it's less interesting than live things, because I that's my idea. People likes to interact with the invited like me, like other people. And for the coffee, I'm thinking that at the beginning we will have not so many followers, but if like I am like the rat, I know best. I don't want to go in to stop. I want to go on, because I think in the future, if we give every week you know that there is someone talking about something. I think in the future we will survive. So
yeah, I think that's true. Go ahead.
Maybe there are not the same rules for the online behavior as the same rule that offline behavior. Tracy,
well, I think
what is...
you make me think of many things, because one of them is you're one of the most innovative people I've ever known in our field. You try many, many things. You bring so much energy, and it's been interesting to watch you from a distance, just through Facebook since COVID-19. All the ways you've tried to help, all the things and that's, we know about variation, right? So the more things you try, the more things that are likely to be discovered. And frankly, I think that's what behavior science is about. It's about trying individual things and seeing what happens and then following what works. But that's just a general idea. I also think you're right. If there's a regular schedule and if it's interesting and fun, I think you'll get followers. The other thing I know for sure is if you record sessions and then make them available to people afterwards and create a library, I know for sure that you can get people to subscribe, because I've just watched that happen. I also think, the larger topic of how do we attract people, I think having conversations like this, or watching you play with your daughter, or any number of things, are going to be more interesting to people than sort of academic presentations that have a lot of jargon in them. I think people like humanity, and especially now when we don't get to be in the room with each other, I actually think there's a lot of, the more humanity you can bring into this environment, into this online environment. And you and your Italian colleagues are especially good at this, I think. I remember when COVID-19, this is really off topic, but I remember when COVID-19 was starting, there were some interviews with some Italians about whether people were going to shelter in place. And they said, well, we will still be hugging and kissing. We're Italians. We can't stop this, and that was not so good maybe, but the humanity that you bring to it is going to attract people for sure.
You guys are both making me think of a number of things. Also, one thing that I particularly enjoy about this is the moment of having a coffee together. It's harder to have a coffee with someone else right now, and I know that every week I get to do this. And maybe one thing we need to do is to be more explicit about inviting people to have a coffee with us. So when they're watching it, to have their coffee alongside of us, even though we're not live at the moment, you could still kind of engage and participate in your own ways with the conversation. And then once we can go live, it would be inviting people to have a coffee with us in an interaction.
I think that's true. Yeah. Well, the other thing is it's a conversation. The other thing I've observed during this period of time is that there are some organizations that have just had very informal, for example, the Standard Celebration Society does their happy hours, and initially that was just kind of a social gathering. And I don't know what the value of that is other than we like to connect with people. But now they're also moving toward having featured people or topics. And my sense of it is that if there's a way to continue a conversation that's real, that's rather than a presentation. I mean, for example, I know that when I teach online, when I can get a group of people to use the chat box actively, and there's a whole conversation going in there, and I can respond to it and they can have their conversations, it's actually in some ways more interactive than it is in a classroom when only one person can be speaking at a time. So I think there's all these features to try to understand how we use them effectively,
Yes, I know. It's beautiful to listen to you, and now I understand why we have a coffee and not like because I am more relaxed. I think I learn more during this coffee than that when I listen some webinar or stuff like that.
Well,
for my personality.
If you think about conferences, and this is my bias too, but if you think about professional conferences, there's some conferences I go to where they're definitely great presentations, but I usually go to them because I want to see my colleagues and friends, and I probably learn more having a drink with them or sitting in the lobby or taking a walk than I do in the formal presentations. So I think this is kind of potentially an extension of that also, you know.
At the same time, I think we sort of need people to comment more. You know, there's the comment function on YouTube when we're sharing on Facebook or on Instagram and other places. People need to tell us what they want conversations about, what they want to listen to us talk about, with whom, because we can make those connections and bring people in and have series of conversations around things. Because one of the things that you guys were both commenting on was the number of viewers, Francesca, like when you were interacting with BJ and Tulia and playing games and showing that content is relevant. People need to know how to keep their kids engaged right now, what ways they can do that. And because you're so innovative and enthusiastic and such a good teacher, it's easy for people to model that, to see it, to tune in, to grab hold of it, and then to take something tangible away from it. And so if folks are telling us more in the comments about things they're concerned with, things they're struggling with, and we can start to have more conversations to generate more ideas and to provide some additional supports that folks need right now.
I think there's a lot of things. Oh, go ahead.
We have to think to a strategy we have to imagine a strategy, Tracy, to push people to tell us what they want a conversation about.
Maybe when we post this time, Francesca, post it alongside a question. Yeah.
Okay. Va bene, I promise. And Prof, what do you want to say to us?
Well, there's several things based on what you just said. First of all, as you probably know, there is a whole field of experts who have created YouTube, who have, as they say, monetized YouTube channels about almost anything. I mean, you know, knitting or wine tasting or planting, you know, vegetables or whatever it is. There are people who have huge followings in doing that, and there are some books and expertise in that area. So that's one thing to know about. I think we can learn some things by people like Gary Van, whatever his name is, some of these guys that build their YouTube presence. Another couple of ideas are very practical, which is that if you're interested in the ABA community, we know there's a lot of applied behavior analysts in Facebook. I mean, if you just go on Facebook and search for ABA, there's probably at least a dozen groups.
Oh, we have to post the post also in the group, okay? Yeah. Because I'm not in the group, but if we post we share the post in the group, maybe someone will follow and to participate.
Yeah. And there are many groups. One of the things that's great about it is you're not selling anything, right? This is not an advertisement. So you're just sharing valuable content. And if you go ABA, there's several ABA business owner groups in the US. There's the Standard Acceleration Society, obviously. There's a lot of groups out there. And one of the things that's happening in my business related to that, as you know, I'm fairly outspoken in my political views on Facebook, and I'm sure you've noticed. And I've never mixed Facebook with LinkedIn with my corporate clients because I'm not sure if they'll all appreciate my progressive politics. And I haven't sought out ABA business, but now our colleague Shane Isley and I are building a whole set of services for the ABA community, for companies that are trying to develop to improve their organizations. And what's interesting about that is I've not very aggressively tried to reach out, but there's so many applied behavior analysts in Facebook in different groups that they show up. And so I probably have more people wanting to be my friend on LinkedIn because of my presence on Facebook than any place. So I'd highly encourage you to really let people know that you're doing this in as many different groups as you can on Facebook. One other thing that I learned, and I don't know quite what to do with this, but what I know is that, and this is a technical thing, if you have a YouTube video and you post it, let's say on Facebook, the Facebook algorithms are less likely to push that to the top than if you upload the video to Facebook. Because if it's on YouTube, people have to click and and they'll go outside, right? So I learned this from Brett Denovi, actually, and who's a colleague of ours. And so I don't know how.
They told me because Google and YouTube, if you are a non-profit organization like Teacher, they can give you $10,000 each month to promote your activity online. But not with Facebook and Instagram, but from your website to YouTube. So only advertising. And Prof and Tracy, as an entrepreneur, I can always not to control everything, but I can imagine. I have an idea. I can imagine what people will buy or not buy, which kind of services. When I do something online, I never know. That's why now I'm loving it. So I don't know what people will like.
Well, there is the other thing about it. A couple other thoughts I had when you were speaking earlier that's related here. Years ago, back in the 1990s, before the internet was really very big, I created a business plan that I never executed on, but it was called the Fluency Channel originally. And the idea was, I realized it was kind of a stupid realization in a way. We were trying to teach families and ordinary people to do precision teaching. And we thought, well, we'll have a website where there's written instructions for doing that. And then, of course, I realized that's stupid. We just need to have models. And this goes back to what you were saying earlier. I think beside having conversations like this, showing people doing interesting things with kids or teachers is going to be more valuable to people in the end than any lectures or technical thing you can ever do. So I think if it's a mix of kind of fun conversations like this and examples of things that if it's okay for the kids to be on screen or whatever, models, I think people will value that a lot. That's just another idea.
Yeah, that comes back to a couple of kind of merging some of the conversations we've had in several weeks. One of the challenges that Shala was trying to overcome with her course for you guys this week, and that she couldn't show the videos that she usually shows. So if we had, especially now that Tiche is open, the possibility of watching a session and then talking about the clinical decision-making, the case conceptualization formulation that Professor Moderato was talking about last week, this could be some things that both are useful for everyone, but then also useful in our courses now too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, the other thing, that reminds me of some technical issues, because I've been using Zoom now for at least 3 or 4 years to do webinars with corporate trainers and so forth, or not webinars, but web-based training. And I realize that I still don't know all the technology. I am fairly certain you can share a video on Zoom, but I'm not sure that I know how to do it correctly. I'm now starting to use a webinar platform called Webinar Jam that you subscribe to, and you can definitely upload videos to it to share. So I'm pretty sure that part of it is we have to learn to really take advantage of the technological features. And sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes you have to do a little study to figure that out,
My brain is completely in love now. So we have to stop the registration because I have to just, my brain is away. So we stop the registration, then we talk again. So thank you to everybody. Ci vediamo la prossima settimana. Grazie al professor Carl. E la prossima settimana non sapete che ci sarà ospite perché lo inviterò io e non sapete di dove sarà. You will not know. You will not know who will be with us next week. I just tell to everybody this.
Yes. So Francesca says thank you, everyone. Thank you, of course, to Professor Binder. And next week, Francesca's bringing a guest that I will not know. And I have no idea what's going to happen, but it will be fun, as always.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.